Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am so stoked to be here with you today because we are unpacking an absolutely wild story. But just a quick heads up, we're going to pivot pretty much instantly from my usual excitement into something a whole lot darker. Today, we're diving into the source accounts of the Shea family and dropping right into a terrifying mystery that completely blurs the lines between history, deep psychological stress, and the unknown. To really wrap your head around the sheer terror this family claims to have dealt with, let me hook you with a moment that happened right before they abandoned their home forever. Just picture this, okay? It's early evening, the family is hanging out in their kitchen playing cards, just listening to a burned CD. You know, the kind you used to make with a mix of different tracks. Out of nowhere, the CD player inexplicably skips all the way to track 99, a track that literally shouldn't exist. And on repeat, this phrase loops over and over. You need to help. You need to help. When they checked that CD later, there was absolutely no song with those lyrics anywhere on it. It's such a chilling moment that throws us right into the middle of the action. Section 1, the historic dream home. Let's rewind to October 2003. Jaime and Ben Shea found what honestly looked like the deal of a lifetime. They were this young, excited couple looking for a spot to raise their growing family. 10-year-old Tori, 5-year-old Bridger, and 8-month-old baby Jackson. And you can totally see why they were drawn to this giant, historic home in Lamar, Arkansas. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill house. Historical records show parts of it actually dated back to the late 1700s and 1811, making it one of the oldest private residences in the state. Over the years, this building served as a stagecoach stop, a speakeasy, and, get this, even a county jail. Big, giant trees, a beautiful front porch, 4 separate fireplaces. From an objective historical standpoint, it's just a fascinating piece of real estate. Okay, let's dive into this. Because that historic charm, it started wearing off really fast. During their initial walkthrough, the Sheas found some seriously ominous stuff. Literally 100 yards behind the house sat an old Confederate cemetery. Inside, up in a bedroom, one of those 4 fireplaces was entirely boarded up. And on those boards, someone had spray-painted a massive pentagram, scattered melted candle wax around like there'd been a seance, and most unsettling of all, they spray-painted a dead boy's full first and last name. Now, at first, Jaime and Ben just brushed it off, figured it was local teenagers breaking in to pull pranks. So they went ahead and bought the house anyway. Section 2, escalating activity in Lamar. So how exactly does a dream home turn into a complete nightmare? Well, it creeps up on you, right? As the family settles into this crazy busy routine of night shifts and school runs. Over the first 3 months, we can really trace the rapid escalation of the phenomena. Month 1, Ben, who was a nurse working nights, woke up during the day to the sound of a baby crying on the monitor. But when he went to check, the babysitter had already taken baby Jackson out of the house. At night, they were hearing loud, physical pounding on the walls right above their heads. By month 2, it was phantom footsteps and the very distinct sound of rubber balls bouncing down the wooden stairs while they watched TV. By month 3, things were so intense they couldn't even keep a light bulb burning in the hallway near that pentagram room. They bought battery-operated touch lamps for 5-year-old Bridger so he wouldn't be scared, but those batteries would drain almost instantly. And despite Bridger telling them he was constantly hearing a literal crowd of voices talking over each other in his room, Jaime and Ben desperately tried to rationalize it all as just foundation settling or old house noises. But honestly, those rationalizations were getting pretty hard to maintain. About 2 months in, Jaime had a deeply unsettling encounter at the local grocery store. The store greeter stops her and asked if she lived in the old Lamar house. When Jaime said yes, the woman delivered this chilling warning. I lived there when I was a kid. It's haunted. And then she casually tells Jaime this local legend, that back in the 1800s, a young boy tragically fell to his death from a second-story window. And yep, you guessed it, it was the exact same window in 5-year-old Bridger's bedroom. Section 3, the terrifying trance. Now we're moving way past the odd little things you can just blame on a tired mind and straight into undeniable face-to-face terror. According to Jaime, the scariest night in that home involved Bridger. Jaime and Ben were working at their computer when they caught a reflection, or a shadow, of someone walking right behind them. Suddenly, 5-year-old Bridger comes down the stairs, staring blankly in a deep trance. When Jaime tried to snap him out of it, Bridger got right up in her face and started laughing. But it wasn't his laugh. Jaime said it was the most terrifying, unrecognizable sound she had ever heard. At that exact second, the family dog sprints past them up the stairs into Bridger's empty room.
jumps on the bed, and just starts aggressively barking into the corner at an unseen presence. When they chased the dog upstairs, they found that its leash, which had been securely hanging on a hook downstairs, was now inexplicably lying right in the middle of the stairs.
Section 4, Tragedy and the Crash. Up until now, we've mostly discussed bumps in the night, right? But the extreme lack of sleep, the constant fear, and the intense psychological stress on this family finally culminated in a near-fatal day. The activity in the house was hitting a fever pitch. Ben was seeing the tails of Victorian gowns on the stairs, and Jaime saw the outline of a shadowy figure in a window. They were completely exhausted. That same day, Jaime was driving her 3 kids home from school, just a simple 3-mile drive down the highway. A construction barrel had been left out of place in the middle of her lane. Sleep-deprived and totally on edge, Jaime swerved to dodge it, overcorrected, and the minivan flipped head over heels multiple times up an embankment. Her 13-year-old daughter Tori was literally ejected from the vehicle, and the heavy van rolled directly on top of her.
Tori miraculously survived, but she spent 10 harrowing days in the ICU in the hospital with a severely broken back. The only reason she wasn't killed instantly was because heavy rains over the previous days made the ground incredibly soft, so her body sank into the mud instead of being crushed against the asphalt. Now, Jaime insists the house didn't magically cause the wreck, but rather the absolute exhaustion and psychological torment of living there totally stripped away her ability to react properly behind the wheel.
Section 5, The Paranormal Investigation. Once Tori was released from the hospital and healed enough for visitors, Jaime finally took action. Having written an article about her house for a local paper earlier, she reached out to a group that had contacted her and called in CASPER, the Central Arkansas Society for Paranormal Research, and this brilliantly illustrates the escalation of the family's response. This team didn't just bring cameras and audio gear, they brought psychic mediums. The moment they walked through the doors, they claimed they immediately realized the house contained multiple spirits, zeroing in specifically on Bridger's bedroom. Let's walk through the structured but totally chaotic sequence of this investigation based on the source logs. Step 1. The mediums approach Bridger's room and report sensing a sea of people, a massive negative crowd, which perfectly matches Bridger's earlier complaints of hearing multiple voices talking over each other. Step 2. The team pulls out a spirit board, and it spells out the name Seth. When asked when it was alive, it just spells never. Step 3. The planchette suddenly starts moving in rapid figure eights before stopping and pointing directly at the team's video camera. Step 4. The tech specialist immediately checks the camera monitor, and they actually capture a shadowy, transparent, tall human figure forming from the ceiling, lingering, and then disappearing entirely. Now, the investigators did try to bless the home using a Native American sage cleansing, but the aftermath was far worse. Jaime reported that right after that Ouija board session, the entire house turned ice cold. She said it felt malicious, like it felt entirely evil. The investigation, rather than clearing the home, seemed to have kicked a hornet's nest, unleashing something far darker. Section 6, Escape and Media Spin. The aftermath of that investigation pushed the family to their absolute limit. The Sheas realized they were never going to find peace there, so they packed up, rented out the house, and left for good. Their story was soon discovered online by New Dominion Pictures, who wanted it for television. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how media can completely warp reality. In 2007, the Discovery Channel released a documentary episode about the Sheas called Ahaunting. But look at the 2 different versions we have here. On one side, we have Jaime's very real, grounded account. She was sleep-deprived from the home stress and swerved to miss a very real construction barrel, nearly losing her daughter. But on the other side, we see the Discovery Channel's broadcast version. They literally fabricated a phantom ghost running out in front of the car to cause the crash, just for ratings. Jaime was deeply frustrated, feeling that her genuine, terrifying reality was completely cheapened for a TV jump scare. But the story doesn't end with Jaime being silenced by a TV network. Today, she has completely reclaimed her narrative. She now co-hosts her own podcast called The Unexplained Archives. After everything her family endured, she really found her own voice. And now, she spends her time diving deep into paranormal stories and supernatural history, taking total control of the very subject that once terrorized her family.
Which brings us to the ultimate question I want to leave you with today, as we review everything we've unpacked in this explainer, from the historical property and that impossible skip CD track, all the way to the sleep deprivation and the horrific car crash. We have to ask, was the Shea home truly infested with a sea of spirits? Or is this a terrifying case study of how extreme environmental and psychological stress can warp our reality, turning an old creaky house into a vessel for our deepest fears? The sources give us the timeline, but the final verdict is entirely up to you. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the true story of the Shea family, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the unknown.